Now it's over to you and your stirring words. We're going to have a Q&A with the leaders of the party, that is William, Hilary and Craig, who I want to introduce to you as now the leader of the Scottish Social Democrats. Congratulations, Craig, on your appointment. So those who were in Manchester last year know that it was Hilary and William. So I'd like to invite Hilary and William and Craig up to the stage. I will even remove myself from the picture and leave you just with them, disintermediated. So please do come up, take your seats. And we need our 2 roving mics again. And we will run for about half an hour, I think, on questions. I'll guillotine it when I need to keep us moving. Okay, are you sitting comfortably? And you can select the questioners, but not the questions that will come from the questioners, obviously.
Hiya, I'd just like to ask, considering we have a new Scottish leader of the SDP, what the answer is to Scottish independence?
Easy.
My favourite topic.
Do you need it? I don't. You know.
Can you hear me?
No.
Shall I use this one?
Yeah.
My favourite topic. The answer doesn't lie with us as a unionist party. The answer lies with those who I refer to as separatists. Because if your position is a status quo, you have nothing to prove. It's down to them. And what I'll do if I get to Holyrood in May 2026 is to ask that House to do one thing and ignore the stupid question for at least 5 years, because it has ruined Scotland. In 2012, they started campaigning for independence, and it polarised every single Scot. It made people that didn't actually care become a separatist or a unionist. And people say the unionists won the referendum. I don't believe we did, and that sounds strange as a unionist. It was a middle ground that won because they were not convinced. So the answer on independence doesn't lie with our party. It lies with those who wish to separate the kingdom. And good luck with that.
Good question.
Have you got the mic now, Jonathan? No. No.
There's one there. There's one there, yeah. Just give it to someone. There's one there.
In my conversations with various people up in the northwest, the culture question comes up. Seems to me there is a culture in this country that knows very well what it is, what it stands for. What do you think? Who do you think the British are?
Wow. Yeah. It's a great question. Actually, the British are whoever legally resides in these islands at any one time. That's my view of it. And it has changed. I've never been very keen on people trying to hang our identity on British values, because when Blair tries that, when they tried that, it's really a project to say that Britain is really just a load of wishy-washy liberal ideas, which is what they try and do. You know, it's tolerance. It's not. It wasn't like that in the 1800s, and actually, British people, like any other group in any other place, change their views about things across the years, and it's natural to do so. So I think, just as a very crude level, I think the British are the human beings that live in these islands legally at any one time. I don't want to dodge the question because it's changed a lot. I think it's changed too rapidly and too dangerously, as you probably picked up from my speech. And I think we would be very wise to slow that down if we want to try and hold together. But I also believe if you did slow it down, we have every chance of doing so. That's my view on it. Do you want to add, Hilary?
I guess I would just add that, like a lot of these things, I think we need a debate on this. And it's easy for the elites sometimes to pretend that, you know, they know all these things, they know what the national interest is, they know what it means to be British. And actually, it's we who need to be part of that conversation. Just try speaking, the tech guys.
Oh. Hello?
Will this work?
Hello? Oh, that's better.
Yeah, got it.
I feel strange. I normally talk with my hands. I can do it now. Over the last 2-3 months, I've visited every corner apart from Wales, and I plan to rectify that soon. And I've spoke to people in as far away as Peterhead, Ballymena, London, Dover, Manchester, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and I even popped over to Cali while I was there, and that inspired me to figure out where this problem started. And I went to Lesbos and done some digging how people come into the system of the EU. And one thing that amazed me was how similar we all are. And I believe now, after talking to the people out in the street, that the only thing that separates us is our accent. The people that I've spoke to all have the same concerns, and this will get back to the question eventually, I hope. What is British? I think when everything's fine, we actually don't need to identify anything. But when things are not fine, we need to figure it out quite quick, and we need to figure out what the concerns are, and we need to, as a society, fix those problems. And what have I learned talking to these people all over the country? They're concerned for kids' safety, their female safety, housing, jobs, fuel prices. They're concerned that we shut old folks' homes. And that doesn't matter what accent you have. So that's identifying us as a people. And I believe that's the vast majority of people. And if you don't want to believe me, go and try and walk up Whitehall just now. Because I think there's at least 500,000. That's why I'm covered in sweat, because I tried to get back. And that is Britain. Whether you agree with the personalities or not is entirely down to you. But if you want to believe that that's not the pulse of the United Kingdom right now, then come and watch some of my videos. That's Britain.
Do you have some hands over there?
Hello. Yeah, so I've got a lot of friends on sort of a wide range of the personalities, characters, and whatnot. And obviously, I try and convince them to support the SDP as much as I can. But there's a big question I get a lot, and I'll ask it in probably more simpler terms than it deserves. But are transgender identifying people welcome in the Social Democratic Party?
Shall I take that? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, when the policies changed recently, things have hardened up and sharpened up on this issue. But certainly when we worked on the policy for the first time a few years ago, I reached out and included trying to get the view of SDP members that were trans, just to get their point of view, to make sure the policy is right. So the brief answer is yes. But there are boundaries, and that's the problem with the issue. There are boundaries that matter and are vouchsafed by biological sex and truth and freedom of speech. And we will try to get policy right, but defend the boundaries. But we're a liberal country, and broadly, if you want to live your life as a trans person, you should be able to free to do that. But it doesn't mean you can have everything. That's the point.
So this sector, Doug, would you want to take that over that side of the room? And then is there somebody else over here? And at the front. Shall we take you first while that's making its way?
May I ask why the SDP doesn't have a stated party policy on the assisted suicide debate, and or why, as a party, it is my belief that we see it as, like the Liberal Democrats, like a issue of individual autonomy, not one that's going to kind of change the nature of the NHS and wider institutions.
Shall I go first? Okay. It's a great question. And we have thought very, very carefully about it. I'm going to give you a sort of trite answer first, and then I'll give you the proper answer, I think. The trite answer is that my job as leader is to try and hold the party together broadly if I can. And a party our size and growing, is very important we do that. And I've naturally tried to be careful about going too, or very clear, very hard on some issue that will halve the size of the party. And that's the sort of tactical reason. And so everyone has a view on assisted suicide or abortion or the death penalty. I've got views. I think my views are consistent on all. I'm against death penalty. I'm against assisted suicide, and I think the legal term for abortion should be reduced. But I back. I think legal abortion is very important to have. So that's my position. But I tell you what, if we issued strong policy in those three areas, and if you add a strong policy on Israel, Gaza, you'll halve the quarter of the party. And so I think that the reality is, I'm very in favour of Social Democrats saying whatever they think about these things, but to date we've not issued party policy on it, and it remains a conscience issue. And that is my position on it. You can agree or disagree, and that's fine as well.
Just take a moment, because I suspect it's a follow-up question.
Now, I respect the party's position on the assisted suicide. However, I think you cannot confuse, or compare rather, abortion, the death penalty, and assisted suicide. Assisted suicide, if that comes in, will alter the relationship between the doctor and the patient. Trust in the NHS is already at the bottom. It's worse than it's ever been. The NHS is on its knees. Social care likewise. If this is brought through, thousands and thousands of people will be coerced into ending their lives. That is not something I think that the SDP should support. And I please, can we have a debate about this in the party? I think we need to have a debate about it and vote on it. That's my point. Thank you.
Can we come back? I will. I'll just be very brief. Look, you may be right about that, and during the general election last year, I did 5 hustings in Hexham, and there were 5 candidates. And I was the only candidate that argued against assisted suicide every single time. But I tell you what, I didn't hold the room. It was staggering. It was staggering. I was very often out on a limb on it. And that is the problem, and parties can decide what they do for their own reasons. But if we do it, it will change. Not everyone, not even every Social Democrat will agree to this. Yeah, take it. Stephen.
Over there, and then somebody got the microphone over there. Yeah, you go first then.
I'm a new member of this party.
Can you stand up?
Oh, sorry. I'm a new member of this party, and before I joined, I went and talked to some people about this party, and nobody seemed to know this party at all. Nobody seemed to have any awareness of this party. One of those people who had lacked total awareness was a renowned lecturer of political marketing. So this party seems to have a very serious issue in terms of awareness and salience in public society. So given that the elections are coming up in a few years, what is the party's policy on improving its position in society, its awareness? Because I think this is the most important issue at the moment. Thanks.
You can say that, yeah. It's the most important issue. I mean, you could look at the progress. I think 20% of British public know about us because they couldn't vote last year without seeing us, and that was a major achievement. And we did very, very well with the resources we had to get those 120 candidates across and get the party election broadcast and the rest of it. And I want as much cut through and as much attention as I can. There are some tactical things which we need to improve on, and I'd love a dedicated press and PR media team in this city, and I intend to get it, and I think that'll make a difference. I know it'll make a difference. But you've also got to be fair to us. When we started a few years ago, no one knew anything about us at all, and the idea of getting about 250,000 people have voted for us roughly since then, I might have taken that actually, but I will warn you all that this is a critical time in the party's history, the period from now until the next election is absolutely critical, and you've got to keep ascending, you've got to keep climbing in this plane. If we don't, we're in real trouble.
I'm going to say 3 little words. Sign up September.
Yeah.
That, you know, I don't think none of this is going to happen without members also playing their part in terms of building the party. So please, everybody, bear that in mind. Over here.
So I'm Stephen, and I'm a lawyer, so you know what I'm going to talk about. Does the SDP understand that the law itself has been used to ossify the country, to block policy?
Yeah, take it, yeah. Go for it.
This has been going on for rapidly in the last 30 years, but for much, much longer than that. I mean, the Town and Country Planning Act is far older than 30 years ago. I warned Boris's government that the Rwanda plan wouldn't work. Then the Supreme Court told Boris that the Rwanda plan didn't work. The civil service didn't warn Boris that the Rwanda plan wouldn't work. Rishi then came up with a second Rwanda plan, and I warned Rishi's government that the Rwanda plan wouldn't work. And we didn't actually get it to the Supreme Court, but I can tell you now that the Supreme Court would have kicked out Rishi's Rwanda plan too. The civil service not only didn't warn Rishi, I had a banging row with the head of legal at the Attorney General's office, who was just a delusional loon and did not know how to draft laws. Do the SDP understand that there are serious problems now in our legal system that will block many of your good policies, which I would personally support, but it's a problem?
Yeah, I'll take that very briefly. We certainly do. We certainly do. It's a massive issue, not just because of the impediments that you talk about, that, but actually philosophically. And it's been going on a long, long time. And everyone knows I'm a John Gray fan, but Enlightenment's wake. Liberal legalism, Rawlsian liberal legalism. That's the cause of it. And it's anti-democratic, because they'll say, what we want to do, or what a government wants to do, you can't do because of this legal impediment. And thank you, Stephen. My conversations with you on disincorporation of international law have been very, very helpful. So the answer is yes, we do get it.
Make an observation, Stephen. You are taller in real life, and I still have hair envy. Thank you.
Someone's got yes, over there.
So following on from that point, and also the earlier question about what is Britain, I think the key question for a political party is what is Britain politically? Because the one institution that has the potential to reintegrate Britain as a political community is Parliament. And popular sovereignty represented in Parliament and parliamentary sovereignty, which again would address the question of law above popular democratic determination. And so I think any efforts of a party have to be concentrated on renewing parliamentary sovereignty as a basis of popular sovereignty and as the one institution that has the key capacity to bring Britain together as a political community, and then all the other ways that Britain can be a thriving country is through the renewal of parliamentary sovereignty as a basis of popular sovereignty.
No, very briefly, I agree with you. I mean, I get called a Benite rightfully on industrial economics and things, but Tony Benn was right about this. Absolutely, totally right.
Can I just say something? The notion of democracy is absolutely splendid, and what we have to organise it here in our country is a model replicated throughout the world. The only problem in the whole thing is we gave 650 people the job to enact it, and right now it's the wrong 650 people. We need to sort the people.
Okay, sorry to all the people who've still got their hands up. We've got one last question over here.
Mine's about immigration. So, obviously, you said in your speech about maintaining social cohesion, and obviously we're going to deport illegal immigrants, and obviously review what migrants that we've got here based on their contribution and things like that. So, are you thinking about scrapping indefinite leave to remain for a set period, and also as well to maintain social cohesion, look at policies such as fertility rates, which we're probably currently at like 1.5. So we should be like looking towards building the family back up and encouraging people to have more children so we don't need to rely on foreign labour.
Do you go? I don't mind.
Okay, let me do the second part and then maybe you do the first part. So I think on fertility rates, you have got to be a little bit careful, you know, because I think what we are seeing is a change in the age at which people have children, which means that some of the statistics that are based on period fertility rates rather than total fertility rates could be, not saying they are, but they could be a bit misleading. I think the other thing is that we shouldn't get too tied up with kind of demography, you know, kind of demography as a kind of determinant. Because the thing that's really important is actually the thing we've been talking about most of the day today, which is productivity. And if we can really tackle the productivity problem, to me, that resolves all these other things as well.
I'm going to point. I said give a plug to the Salisbury Review. Kindly let me write quite a long piece on immigration and identity. So it's there, and you can get a copy. So most of what I think is in there. But personally on indefinite leave to remain, I'm not in favour of getting rid of it. Partly because I'm married to a foreign national with it, and we'd be in a bit of trouble. If that was the case. And it's too crude to say just get rid of it. I mean, I think what we need to do is discriminate more in terms of who comes here and on what terms and where they make a contribution to the country, actually.
Can I just just in case I don't have another opportunity, there was a point made over here about putting labels on people and the dialogue that we use to describe people. And this first hit me. I got contacted on social media at 11:30 one night by a man in Ballymena that I did not know. And he asked me, Craig, can you come and tell our story? Or what is your story? He said, we have 3 children in our community who have been abused and nobody's listening. All they want to do is report on what happened after that. So by 2:30 the next day I was in Ballymena with a hired car at Belfast, drove to Ballymena. And I saw it from my own eyes. There was a BBC reporter who was trying to get words that he wanted out of the people's mouths. So he could package it as far right, racist, Islamophobic, all this stuff. And I thought about it, I saw it in front of my eyes. And I said, we need to change the narrative. Because if we don't change the narrative, what happens? These people in Ballymena have got a concern. And if they voice their concern and they feel the establishment are listening, then they have a chance. But if the establishment tell them they're far right and they're racist and there's whatever ism you want to add to them, then they think they're not listening. And that concern turns into, they get upset, can turn to violence and can be the total destruction of our society. And unfortunately, my words came back to haunt me 40 hours ago when a man who was a racist and bigot and an Islamophobe, an homophobic, gets shot. Not because of his views, because if you listen to his views, they're actually quite sensible. But he gets shot because of how other people spoke about his views. And it unfortunately cemented that thought I had 3-4 months ago. So we have to stop this. And it doesn't matter if we win this or lose this, we have to stop this because people will get hurt. Mark my words. I walk these streets of these 4 nations of ours, and the people there have concerns, and to call them bigots and racists and, with all due respect, sir, Tommy Robinson's mob, it is unhelpful. I support almost every word that man says. Am I Tommy Robinson mob? Well, no, I'm not. I'm Craig Clouston. But I could get shot tomorrow if people believe I'm Tommy Robinson's mob and half the nonsense that the press in Scotland have already started writing about me and my friends.
very sorry to have to bring it to an end because I'm sure there are many, many more questions. But what a wide variety of subjects. Thank you so much for throwing them at your party leaders. Thank you.